Hello and welcome to another episode of Touchline Talk with Odds Changer, where we will be discussing all the latest news and gossip from the Premier League, AFL and the rest of the world. As usual, I'm joined by football broadcaster, writer and man in the know, Dean Jones, to talk about all the latest talking points and rumours on the grapevine. Hi Dean, it was another eventful week in the world of football. Some tragic events with the sad passing of Diego Maradona. Some great tributes to him during the week. What's your thoughts on the great man?
Yeah, really tragic, isn't it? I mean, he's obviously just inspired so many teams and players, and you can see in the tributes that have gone on over the weekend just how much he meant to people. I mean, the fact that Messi actually played with a shirt underneath his Barcelona shirt that Maradona once wore for Newell's Old Boys, and then shows everybody when he scores the goal. It's just an unbelievable moment. Even Boca Juniors celebrate a goal and run over to where his daughter sat, and she's crying. It was just a really emotional weekend for so many players and teams out there. Obviously Napoli especially, and they go and get a 4-0 win over Roma. So look, obviously his legacy will live on, and players will always be inspired by him. And I guess that's the great thing about players of his type and how long their name can live on.
Yeah, lovely to see some of those tributes, especially the Napoli ones. Was loving those shirts, the Argentina and Napoli ones mixed together. So put them on your Christmas list, maybe. I think it'd be very popular and everything else.
Definitely, yeah.
But yeah, obviously Premier League again. It looked like at halftime on Sunday, Dean would be talking about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's future again, with them trailing 2-0 to Southampton and looking in real trouble. But yeah, give credit to the Norwegian. He turned things around, inspired substitution with Edison Cavani coming off the bench, scoring 2, assisting the other for Bruno Fernandes, who again scores another goal away from home. And United turned it around to get a big win there. For United, do you think now Solskjaer has found his best starting 11, and Cavani has got to be in that starting 11 now after that impact?
Yeah, I think so. I think that it's noticeable in games like that you need a player like Cavani. You can talk about him being too old as a signing, if you like, but you could flip that on its head and say, well, there are games like that one where you're relying on somebody to have been there and done it before and have the experience and the wisdom and the patience to wait for their moment and snap up those chances when they come. Obviously, United have unbelievably talented forwards, but Rashford and Greenwood and these types of players, they might not be able to capture those brief moments when you need to take your chance. You can't have too many missed chances at a club like Man United. And to have somebody like Cavani that you can bring into the frame, almost like Ibrahimovic did a few years back, and just give you that wiseness up front is just really important. And I think it's something that United have been missing. I'm surprised it's taken this long for Cavani to get, a moment like this, to be honest with you. I think that he should be starting games. Same with Van der Beek. I mean, officially, United are saying that they will always tend to give him time to buy into everything that's going on around the club and understand the philosophy and, living in Manchester and all the rest of it. So now that he's arrived, I think that will be that. And Cavani will be, a permanent fixture in the side, if not starting every week, certainly playing. And once again, Solskjaer's dug himself out of trouble there, hasn't he? Whenever he needs a result, he gets it.
Yeah, they just seem to be love playing away from home. Man United, 8 consecutive wins, club record away from home, 4th away from home as well when they were trailing in the game. So a lot of questions about United's character, but I think those results coming from behind to get the wins, I think we have to give Solskjaer a bit of praise probably.
Yeah, I mean, Solskjaer himself says that he doesn't really see home and away fixtures as a thing anymore. They're just games. You could be playing them pretty much anywhere because there's no atmosphere there. I mean, obviously, that's soon going to change once a couple of thousand people are inside the stadium. Slowly, we'll start to get there again where these home and away fixtures matter. But it's really difficult to judge how well Solskjaer is doing because he has such bad results. And then a couple of weeks later, he'll have such a good result. And in the meantime, he'll have little results like this that just mean you can't do anything about his situation. You can't sack him after he's won 3-2 against Southampton. And United aren't going to sack him. They're not going to make a knee-jerk reaction after all this time. We're approaching his 2-year anniversary as Man United boss. He's got another year after this one on his contract. There is no sign right now that United are going to get rid of him. I think that the way that this season pans out, they'll then be able to really judge where they're at with Solskjaer. Have they really moved forward from that Mourinho era? I think his win percent is very similar, if not a little lower than Mourinho's was as it stands right now. He needs to raise that. He needs to have United in that top four. He needs to be competing for trophies. Not actually competing, actually winning trophies. United have to be winning trophies. And let's judge him at the end of the season. If they haven't progressed, I think United have got a decision to make at the end of the season over whether they do continue with Solskjaer.
Yeah, talking of people's future at Old Trafford, Paul Pogba was again missing for that win at Southampton amid reports of a new ankle injury. But United are performing well without the Frenchman. His name's going to come up again in January, Dean, probably with transfer rumours about him. Where do you think Pogba stands right now? Does he deserve a starting place in that United team if he's fit or not?
Not really, no, to be honest with you. There are some games when he does, yeah. And I think that the thing that Solskjaer really struggles with is keeping him on the bench for too long. I think he always has this problem when there are big name players in his squad and he doesn't want there to be an issue that surrounds them. He ends up just playing them for a game they probably shouldn't play. It must be difficult to manage these big names and to know that your best lineup probably doesn't include them. Because I don't think he has an actual problem with Pogba. But ultimately, if you've got a player that's considered to be one of the best midfielders in the world just sat on the bench or not even in the squad, then questions are going to be asked and you're going to be asked about it in your press conference and it probably becomes very boring for him. The fact is, they have got a decision to make over Pogba in the coming months. It seems silly that he would stay at United any longer, to be honest with you. This deal, this move has not worked for him. He hoped he could go back to United and show people what he was capable of after leaving first time around. He hasn't been able to do that. And I think that now is the time for him to really consider going somewhere else and winning trophies again, winning league titles again. He's not going to win a league title if he stays at Man United in the near future. Real Madrid, still there waiting, to be honest. From what I hear, they will be back in the summer. They didn't spend last summer, Real Madrid. That's going to change in 2021. They plan to spend. They've got to spend, to be honest, when you look at their performances and their results this season. And I think, Pogba, Real Madrid, Juve, one of those two clubs is where he'll be rocking up.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Dean. I think those two clubs will be in the market for midfielders. Luka Modric coming to the end of his contract at Real Madrid as well, so every chance that he might possibly leave at the end of the season, while Juventus have never hidden their desire to bring Pogba back, probably where he did play his best football. So, yeah, interesting summer ahead for Pogba. I don't think there'll be any move for him in January. It'd be too expensive, too difficult to do. But in the summer, again, I'm sure there'll be more transfer speculation on another saga involving Paul Pogba. But yeah, moving on, just a few weeks ago, we were all lauding Mikel Arteta and Arsenal after that big win at Old Trafford. But fast forward a few weeks and seeming a bit of turmoil, Arsenal right now. That 2-1 defeat to Wolves at the weekend was their 5th defeat out of their last 8 games. They're now languishing in 14th place in the table and a worst start to the season since 1981. Arteta's scratching his head right now to see what's happening. He's 30 games now he's been in charge of Arsenal. Of the first 22, he lost only 5, but he's lost 5 of his last 8. Dean, do you think there will be any pressure on Arteta coming up now? Now he's just coming up to 1 year in charge?
I don't know. I don't think he's under any pressure. Particularly, I've spoken before a couple of times about the fact that they changed his role at the club. He's not head coach, he's manager. And he has such influence around decisions that are going on that it would seem backwards for them to now scrap that and change the whole structure again. So I think that Arteta will stay. Maybe he might need somebody new alongside him. Maybe he needs to change something there in terms of the backroom staff. I don't know, but certainly he's concerned right now. I think you could see that after the game in the way that he was talking. 3 home defeats in a row, I think it is as well, which isn't good enough, is it? I was talking a minute ago how home and away fixtures don't matter, but they're going to matter soon once those fans start coming in, and Arsenal are going to be one of the first. And that's when you're going to start hearing about how the fans actually feel about you. And I think Arsenal fans have for a long time not been happy with situations, whether it was the end of the Wenger reign, whether it was Unai Emery's entire reign, and now the start of Arteta's. He was lauded in those early days, like you say, but the romantic period is over now. The honeymoon's gone, and now we get into viewing it as reality. Like, where are Arsenal right now? Why is Aubameyang not scoring goals? Why can they not get a tune out of Nicolas Pepe? It is a worry, and I think that he does have to start turning around things quickly, just to make sure that. Well, Roy Keane talks about them being he said they got enough to stay up, didn't he? I think they'll have enough to stay up, but you don't even want to be in that conversation.
No, I think the former Man United captain enjoyed that little comment about Arsenal, who were his big rivals probably during United's glory days. But yeah, like you said, Dean, worrying times for Arsenal. And as you said, real toxic atmosphere when Unai Emery was there. So Arteta's probably been done a favour with no fans inside the Emirates, because I think during these last few games at home, you'd have seen fans walking out of the stadium that have been all sorts of abuse chucked at him and the players as well. But it's just strange after such a bright start that they've sort of come off the boil and come off the rails, really, Arsenal, and they're looking mid-table team at the minute, really, and that's probably a real thing for Arsenal. So do you think more money needs to be spent to improve the squad in January?
Not sure. That's not always the answer. I mean, they definitely want a midfielder, and I think Houssam Aouar is somebody that you hear talked about a lot, and perhaps it is that creative midfield link that he's crying out for. But this is the same club that haven't even registered Mesut Ozil as part of their squad. So if that was such a big deal to them, then they should probably have included one of the best players of that type in the world. Whatever their reasoning is for leaving him out. I think the most worrying thing is the way and how quickly this Arsenal team are regressing, because they came on so quickly, yet they've so fast gone back to what they were when he first came in. That's the biggest concern. That's what he has to address. I don't think that they'll be spending significant money. That they might look at, getting a centre-back and a midfielder, but people just aren't going to spend big money in January, are they?
No. Yeah, January's going to be quiet, I think, unless you're properly desperate. But yeah, money is tight, even at the top end of the Premier League with these massive clubs as well. So maybe Arteta will have to wait till the summer to try and change things around from Arsenal, but he'll be looking for a big improvement from his side over the coming weeks. But yeah, it seems like he's got more questions than answers right now, Mikel Arteta. And big game ahead for him next weekend with a game against North London rival Spurs, who are flying high at the top of the table. So not the ideal game for Arsenal fans or for Arteta right now. But yeah, moving on to another team who made a real bright start to the season, Everton. They were sitting pretty at the top after the first month of the season, unbeaten in their first 5 games. Got a lot of Everton fans very excited that this could be a season where they could really challenge and maybe finish in the top 4. But since then, it's really gone downhill for Carlo Ancelotti's side. I think now 4 defeats in their last 5 games, the last one coming against Leeds United at the weekend. And a really good game. Both teams had lots of chances in it, but Leeds got the crucial goal in that one. What do you put down the drop-off in performances, Dean? And would you have concerns about Everton?
I think I'm actually wondering what was going on at the start of the season, not what's going on now. I mean, this might be normal, and it might have been that the start of the season was unrealistic for them to maintain. It might have just been, a new season, very strange circumstances. Nobody can quite get to grips with what's going on, and Everton took advantage of a weird situation, but now everybody's kind of sussed them out. They've shut off certain parts of their game, and now they're struggling. It's a big blow to lose to Leeds. I think that is means they've won 1 of their last 6. There was a real lack of cohesion, players out of position. Ancelotti's being questioned tactically now about how he's setting his side up. But this is a man who's used to working at Juventus, Milan, Chelsea, PSG, Real Madrid, Bayern Munich, and then in the last couple of years, obviously Napoli and now Everton. Now, Everton might have a great history and be considered to have great tradition, but they haven't got the pull and they haven't got the status of most of those clubs that I've just listed there. So this is in a way, a new challenge for Ancelotti in his managing career. And he's been around a long time and he's one of the best around. But let's see what he's really made of now. Their next trip, I think, is to Burnley. If you can't beat Burnley, then you're in big trouble. And they need that win to boost confidence. If you lose to Burnley, it completely drains your confidence. And you're then in big trouble because after that, they've got Chelsea, Leicester, Man United, Arsenal. And you're then saying, okay, well, what do we do with Ancelotti here? We're only a year into his reign, but this is a complete mess. They've got huge ambition, this club. And the owner's obviously he wanted Ancelotti for a long time. He wanted these James Rodriguez types. He's got Richarlison. If things don't go well this season, well, Richarlison will probably leave. And then you start to wonder, can Everton actually get anywhere beyond where they've been for the last few years?
Yeah, as you said, Ancelotti celebrates his 1-year anniversary in charge at Goodison Park next month. But obviously, there was early signs of improvement. Obviously, the Everton fans have a lot of faith in Ancelotti, but it seems this last few weeks they've gone backwards again, and seemingly where Everton normally are, maybe sitting as a mid-table team, a team that can maybe bloody the nose of the big boys on their day, but consistency seems to be the real problem for them. I just think maybe Everton, they've spent a lot on the transfer market, but still that squad doesn't look right for me. It's a bit imbalanced. What about you, Dean? Do you think maybe a new forward to help Calvert-Lewin in January, or even a new goalkeeper with Jordan Pickford still coming under the microscope?
I mean, everybody else criticises Pickford and questions him, but it seems like his spot is pretty safe. Everybody around there seems to defend him pretty much. Calvert-Lewin, is it unrealistic again to expect him to continue that early season form? He's never been scoring goals like this before. I do think he's progressed. He's got a lot better. He's getting the kind of chances he would have been wanting for a long time. So you've got to give him the benefit of the doubt. But yeah, you will need to back him up at some point. It is a really big time for Everton in terms of figuring out exactly what kind of club they are, where they're going to end up. And if they do end up mid-table, you do have to wonder, what are they ever going to have to do to take that next step to actually get into that top six?
Yeah, they've thrown money at it and it hasn't got them anywhere so far. And I think Everton fans crying out for a trophy, with their last one being way back in 1995 in the FA Cup. So yeah, big few weeks, months ahead for Everton and Carlo Ancelotti to try and turn things around at Goodison Park. Switching our attention to the Football League, there was another managerial casualty over the weekend with Sunderland parting company with Phil Parkinson. 13 months in charge at the Stadium of Light. Wasn't a big fan's favourite, Parkinson, probably because of his style of football and maybe his manner as well. He was a bit, maybe not the most ambitious manager that probably Sunderland fans feel they should have. Finished 8th last season, Dean, which was curtailed by coronavirus, sitting in 8th place again right now. Obviously, we all know the last couple of seasons, Sunderland's troubles on and off the field with the Netflix documentary and the takeovers and everything else. They've now been out of the Premier League since 2017. Where does this club go from here? This managerial appointment's key for whoever replaces Parkinson.
It is, yeah, and they need to kind of get everybody back on side, especially before fans do start coming back into the stadium, because we know that that's a fan base that will certainly let you know how they feel. I mean, the fact that there's going to be a takeover is a good thing. I think that fans haven't been happy with the way that the club's being run for quite some time now, and obviously we've all seen Sunderland till I die, so we've seen firsthand what's actually going on behind the scenes there. Look, what do? Well, Gus Poyet is being talked about as one of the favourites. He wants the job. He'd be very keen to go back. It's that passion and excitement that Sunderland fans have. He just can't. He'd find that very hard to turn down. He's an emotional man himself. Whoever goes into Sunderland and actually starts the Renaissance and gets them promoted is a hero. And that lure is so big, and so many managers would find that difficult to turn down. If you're in football, you've got an ego and you want to build that ego up and you want to be lauded. Of course you do. And the chance to go to Sunderland and become that hero is huge. So I think somebody like Poyet will definitely be in the running and will want the chance to turn this around. Whether they go down that route, though, we'll have to wait and see. Paul Cook also being talked about. He's been waiting for a job. Seems like a decent choice when you consider his personality and the fact he probably would be able to lift everyone for a bit and get the instant results and the turnaround that you need. He's got the CV as well, promoted from that division with Wigan 2 or 3 years ago, whatever it was. And I think he could probably give them that lift and the turnaround they need. Don't forget, whichever manager comes in, you're also working in League One now under this salary cap, which makes things difficult because you'd think initially when Sunderland were in this position, they could just buy their way out of it. That's definitely not the case now. They need to get back in the Championship so that they can start to have those big ambitions again. But they've got to do it in a very smart way.
Yeah, they're looking for their 5th different manager in the last 3 seasons, and I think that tells its own story. Sunderland just chopped and changed probably too much, looking for that success, getting back to those past glories when they were in the Premier League. Gus Poyet's been there before already, we know that, so he knows the club, he knows the fans. I think that might be a good one, but obviously he's got a link with this possible new takeover, and I think with Phil Parkinson getting sacked, I think that probably points to that this takeover is inching ever closer, and that will probably happen before the end of this year. So that will be good news for Sunderland as well. Paul Cook, like you said, Dean, he's 10-3 for the job. He's got the League One experience. He plays a good, attractive style of football as well, which would endear him to the Sunderland fans. And there's also Danny Cowley, who's out of work right now. He's 11-4, second favourite for the job. And again, he's worked down in the lower leagues and a very impressive young manager as well. But yeah, for Sunderland, I think this next appointment is key for them. They need to get it right. And for me, I think a good thing they could do is probably bring Kevin Phillips in on board, whoever comes in, bring in the former Sunderland hero. That'll get the fans on side straight away and maybe buy their new manager a bit of time to get things right and try and cheer up those fans on Wearside, because it's been a difficult few seasons for them, and we don't want to see more doom and gloom around Sunderland. Big club, it'd be good to see them back up there in the top echelons of English football. But yeah, big few weeks ahead for Sunderland as well. Talking of a big few weeks, might even be a big few days ahead for Celtic boss Neil Lennon. We talked a couple of weeks ago, Dean, about the pressure that he's under, trying to get this holy grail of 10 in a row of titles. But things since then, Dean, have got even worse for Lennon, losing to lowly Ross County in the League Cup, Celtic's first defeat in cup competition for 35 years. They're already out of Europe after a really embarrassing Europa League campaign, trailing Rangers by 11 points in the league as well, even though they've got 2 games in hand. It looks like that 10 in a row could be out of sight. They've already gone out of the League Cup, out of Europe. Can Neil Lennon survive this? There's been protests after that Ross County defeat with angry fans marching to the stadium and confronting the players and coaching staff. Can you see a road back for Lennon, or do you think this is the end?
It's difficult. I mean, the message that was being put out before that Ross County game was that they don't want to get rid of Lennon yet. They want to give him a bit of time. There's an old firm game at the start of January that they wanted to get to if they could with Lennon in charge. Perhaps that could spark a turnaround. I just don't think you can give this another month. A month is going to feel like a year to this board. When thousands of fans are gathering outside the stadium during a pandemic, you know you're in trouble. Something's going badly wrong. And I think the board will feel that fury the longer this is allowed to drag on. I don't imagine that they will feel that it's worth supporting him through it, to be honest. Like, what is the point of putting themselves through that? Because they too are being questioned. The fans aren't happy with them either, but they can appease them by making a change. So my view on this is the players haven't been performing for him, clearly. Like, they shouldn't be losing games like they have been. But when you get to this stage, the easiest thing to do is get rid of your manager. So I'll be absolutely amazed if Lennon can turn this situation around. I think it feels beyond repair. I think he will go soon. The big question then is, like, what route do you take? We've talked about Eddie Howe. Is that the right route to go down? I don't know. They've got 2 paths. It's either that young manager, the manager that understands the modern game, or do you go for that emotional connect?
Yeah, the emotional connect will be there. The Henrik Larsson, obviously 6-1 at the minute to return to Celtic as manager. We've also got Martin O'Neill, who had great success at Celtic. He's 8-1 as well. But yeah, like you said, my understanding is Eddie Howe would not take this job, even though he's favoured right now. He's 9-4 favourite for the job. He's been out of work since leaving Bournemouth at the end of last season, but I don't think his ambitions right now are to go up to Scotland. He's probably waiting on a Premier League job to become available. Still, we haven't had any managerial casualties in the Premier League, so Eddie Howe is probably biding his time, waiting for that right opportunity, and I don't think he sees that as Celtic right now, even if they come calling. So it's a difficult time for the Celtic board right now. Like you mentioned, Dean, coming under fire from the fans as well. Maybe the easiest option is to give them what the fans want and dispense with the services of Neil Lennon. But yeah, I think the whole situation's just been made worse by the success across Glasgow with Rangers and Steven Gerrard, really.
Absolutely, yeah. I think you're right about how I don't think this is the project for him, because that's what he wants, a project. And taking over Celtic mid-season doesn't give you time for that. I mean, you can barely look 2 weeks into advance in a club like that, in a situation like they're in now. And he'll want to be planning for an entire year, if not 2 years, because that's how he views the clubs that he's in charge of. So look, yeah, Celtic need to get somebody in who can turn around all this ill feeling immediately. So, like, if not Martin O'Neill, don't forget, has also been like close to Neil Lennon. Like he's been advising him and he's been a mentor to him throughout his career, really. So, but somebody like that at least could bring things back around. But as you say, it doesn't help that Steven Gerrard is over at Rangers, having the time of his life and leading them to a title which they probably didn't think was going to be possible just yet.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of Celtic fans were expecting the 10 in row to be almost a certainty, but it definitely doesn't look like a certainty right now. Like you said, Gerrard, I think Rangers now have made their best start to a season in 53 years, going well in Europe as well. Looks like they're going to progress to the next stages of the Europa League, and now odds-on favourite to win their first trophy under Gerrard after reaching the quarterfinals of that Scottish League Cup. Now Celtic are out as well. But yeah, got to be impressed with Gerrard. He's done a good job in the last couple of years and really stamped his authority on that Rangers team.
He's done a really good job. Yeah, it's not easy to go into a club like that, especially as a legend, because there is that extra pressure on you to succeed and to live up. You know, an England player as well up in Scotland. Like, it wouldn't take a lot for them to turn on him, but he seems to have everybody singing from the same hymn sheet. And look, let's see how far he can take this team now. He knows that this is a great stepping stone for him. He knows that success at Rangers will lead to bigger things for him. And it's just a win-win situation for me, because it puts Rangers back where they want to be. And it also puts Steven Gerrard in the window as one of the, potentially the best managers of the next generation.
Yep, he'll earn legendary status straight away if he stops that Celtic 10 in a row. So
Yeah.
that will go down well with all Rangers supporters, I think. But is he the heir apparent to Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool? Maybe in a few years, or who knows, even closer than that, maybe. But Gerrard, he's learned his trade up at Rangers. They've given him a bit of time. He's, as I said, he's done well now. He's got his team playing good football, doing well in European football as well, which I think would be key for him to probably have any chance of getting that job at Anfield, is to impress on the European stage as well. But for all Liverpool fans, it would be the dream if Gerrard was to come and replace Klopp when Klopp finally decides to call it a day.
I think it helps the board out as well, yeah, that he's doing so well, because it'll almost be a no-lose situation if Gerrard is able to succeed Klopp. He's done so well at Rangers that you could argue at this stage he would deserve a crack. Obviously, Klopp will still be at Liverpool, you'd imagine, for 2 more years, at least, and then we'll see where we're at. And in terms of somebody taking over from Klopp, it's going to be so difficult, as we've seen United with Ferguson and Arsenal with Wenger. I know Klopp hasn't been at the club as long as those guys were, but he has, there's going to be a legacy that they hope that is left from this. He's led them back to where they've been trying to get for so long. And who can continue that? Well, Steven Gerrard's one of the few people that understands what he has actually managed to build at Liverpool and how he's done it. And I think that that's going to be the most important thing for whoever goes in there next. It's not about whether you can manage players, whether you're tactically great. It's about understanding Liverpool and understanding what Klopp's built. And I think even if that was just to be a short-term thing, it would help Liverpool get through the transition. So while there'll be talk of Nagelsmann and other young coaches like that, I think it would be a risk, because if things go wrong early on, the fans just haven't got that attachment and they'll turn quickly. And you see what happened with United after, Moyes and everything else, and how long it's taking to find somebody that can do the job. Liverpool could quickly find themselves in that situation. So I think they'll see, like, Lampard's got into Chelsea. He's doing a reasonable job there. Liverpool will probably look at that and say, look, if possible, let's give Steven Gerrard the job of succeeding Jurgen Klopp.
Yeah, I think it's probably inevitable that Gerrard will return to Liverpool at one day if he keeps doing what he's doing so far in his managerial career. But yeah, we'll all be looking forward to it. A couple of seasons, Lampard against Gerrard, Gerrard against Rooney from the dugout, not on the pitch this time. But yeah, something to look forward to when we see those old legends coming head to head again in the next few seasons. That's us for another week, guys. Thanks for tuning in and tune in next week for more insight and discussion on Touchline Talk.